I am Anish Chandran, Assistant Professor, Computer Science Department, Jyoti Engineering College, Cheruduruthi.
In this session I am going to discuss about virtual memory. Virtual memory, actually we discussed about this virtual memory concept in the previous sessions. Then virtual memory is actually a logical memory, that is separation of user logical memory from physical memory. But a part of the program needs to be in memory for execution. We already know about these multi-programming, multitasking techniques. So we will copy only the part of the program which is currently needed to the primary memory. So we can run multiple programs at the same time. So logical address space can therefore be much larger than the physical address space, and also allows address spaces to be shared by several processes, and also allow for more efficient process creation or program running concurrently, less I/O needed to load or swap processes. So we will have a virtual address space there. That is a logical view of how process is stored in memory. Usually start at address 0, continuous addresses until end of space. Meanwhile, physical memory organized in page frames. And MMU must map logical to this physical memory. So there will be a logical address space part of the virtual memory, and we need to map this virtual memory or virtual address space to the physical address space. Virtual memory can be implemented via two-way, that is demand paging and demand segmentation. This is a pictorial representation of a virtual memory. That is, we can see from the figure that this is a virtual memory, and this is a view from the CPU side to this physical memory, and this is a backing store, most probably hard disk. So there is a physical memory and here is a virtual memory. So we need to map this virtual memory to this physical memory by using some memory mapping techniques. When we are considering paging, we will use page table, and when we are using segmentation, we will use segment tables. Okay, then virtual address space. Usually design logical address space for stack to start at maximum logical address and grow down while heap grows up. That is, we will use a stack is grow down and heap as grow up. That is, whenever we are using a process address space or virtual address space, there will be we will enable sparse address space, because when we are using some dynamic linking loading, something like that, then we need to use some memory locations which are currently free. That is, during the execution time, we need to allocate some memory locations. So we will use some sparse address space, usually called as a hole currently. Maximizes address space use. Unused address space between these two is hole. A physical memory needed until heap or stack grows to a given new page. Enables sparse address space with holes left for growth, dynamically linked libraries, etc. System library shared via mapping into virtual address space. Shared memory by mapping pages read-write into virtual address space. Pages can be shared during fork system call. That will be speeding up the process creation. So this is a basic concept that we are using virtual address space, where whatever it is, we will keep some extra memory, because most probably we are in the current operating systems, we are using dynamic allocation strategies. So we need to keep some extra free space in the address space of a process. Then you can see from the figure, it is a shared library, that is shared pages. Both processes can access these shared pages, because when we are using shared library, that means library maps. When we are considering some C programming, for example, we are using a lot of library functions like printf, scanf, gets, puts, etc. So we need to use that library routines in each and every program. So we need to keep it in some shared pages for simplicity, because whenever we are writing basic C programs also, we need to use all of these routines commonly. So we need to share these routines commonly. So we need to use some shared pages for that. Then the first case is demand paging. could bring entire process into memory at load time. At load time means demand paging actually means whenever the CPU requests for a page, then only that particular page is loaded from the secondary or backing store to the primary memory. So, or bringing a page into memory only when it is needed, that is specific. Less IO needed, no unnecessary IO. Less memory needed, faster response, more users. Similar to paging system with swapping. Paging system with swapping. Here, maybe sometimes it needs some swapping because if there is no enough memory space and the system now demands, the CPU now demands some pages, then we definitely need to swap. Otherwise, if there are free memory locations in the address space, then it will be copied from the secondary to the allocated space there. And whenever CPU requests for a page, there will be an valid bit, that is also a reference bit. And if it is an invalid reference, that is the CPU requested for a page which is not in the process address space of that current process, then it will be an invalid reference and the process will be aborted. And if it is a page fault, it is a valid page and which is not currently in the address space of the process, then the system needs to copy that page from the backing store to the primary memory, bring to memory. Then lazy swapper never swaps a page into memory unless page will be needed. Swapper that deals with the page is a pager, and it is a software component pager which will copy or deals with this copying purpose of the system. A very basic concept. With swapping, pager guesses which page will be used before swapping out again. Instead, pager brings in only those pages into memory. How to determine that set of pages? That is the main case. We need to use some specific algorithms to identify which page we need to swap. Need new MMU functionality to implement demand paging. If pages need are already memory resident, then no difference from non-demand paging. That means if it is already available in the primary memory and if it is loaded previously, then it will be taken and executed. If page needed and not memory resident, need to detect and load the page into memory from storage without changing program behavior, without programmer needing to change code. Here is a valid invalid bit. With each page table entry, a valid invalid bit is associated. V in memory, memory resident, I not in memory. Initially, valid or invalid bit is set to I on all entries. Example of a page table snapshot. Here we can see that these are valid pages and these are invalid pages. And whenever the CPU requests for this page, we check whether it is valid or invalid. It is invalid, so then we need to copy that particular page from the secondary memory to the primary memory. During MMU address translation, if valid invalid bit in page table entry is I, it is a page fault, which is called as page fault. That means whenever CPU requests for a page and if it is not currently in the primary memory, then it is denoted as a page fault. Okay, then whenever a page fault occurs, the system needs to copy that particular page from the backing store to the primary memory, that is allocated address space of that particular process. Page table, when some pages are not in main memory, here we can see that it is a page table, and here page 1 is not in the memory, 3, 4, 6 and 7 are not in the memory, so we need to copy that. We can see here A, C and F are here, but here B corresponding entry should be here, and it is not in this primary memory, so it is an invalid reference. So it will be whenever the CPU requests for the data B, then page B, then it will be a page fault. So the system needs to copy this B to some physical memory location and update this page table accordingly. For example, suppose Now B is copied from the secondary memory to address space 7. Then that value 7 will be copied or updated in this page table. That is, here will be the 7 will be here. Okay, and this invalid bit will be changed to a valid bit. So the system can re-execute that instruction and access this B from the location 7, which is currently loaded to 7. Page default. If there is a reference to a page, first reference to that page will tap to operating system. That is a page default. Because for first reference, it will be a page fault. Compulsorily, it will be a page fault, because only on demand, only on the first request, then only the corresponding page is loaded from the backing store to the primary memory. So initially, it will definitely a page fault. Operating system looks at another table to decide invalid reference and just not in memory. That is, if it is a page fault or if it is an invalid reference. If it is an invalid reference, it will be aborted, and if it is not just in memory, it will be treated as a page fault and copied. Find free frame. For copying, find a free frame. Sub page into frame via schedule to disk operation. Reset tables to indicate page now in memory. Set validation bit V. Already discussed about this. Restart the instruction that caused the page fault. Okay, here we can see the pictorial representation of how to handle a page fault. First, here there is a request and there is a reference. So it is the page table, and here we can see that this is an invalid entry and it is a page fault. So the system will generate a trap instruction to the operating system. System will identify it is a page fault, and it will pages on backing store. It will refer the backing store to identify the page, corresponding page, and that page will be copied to the free frame in the physical memory. So whenever we are copying this new page to a free frame, we need to update the page table accordingly. So reset the page table. The I will be changed to V, and this corresponding address will be loaded into this page table. Then it will inform the CPU that to restart the instruction. Then the CPU will again execute the same instruction, and it will check the page table, and here it will be V, and here it will be a address, and which will give the exact location of that corresponding data. Okay, this is the basic steps whenever a page fault occurs. Okay, aspects of demand paging. Extreme case, start process with no pages in memory. Initially, there will not be any process in the memory. While sets instruction pointing to first instruction of process, non-memory resident, page fault. And for every other process, pages on first access. It is a pure demand paging. That is, there is no a single data regarding that particular process currently. Only on request it will be loaded. Actually, a given instruction could access multiple pages. Multiple page fault may be there. That is a possibility. That is, whenever a given instruction could access multiple pages, then there is a possibility for multiple page faults. Consider fetch and decode of instruction which adds two numbers from memory and stores result back to memory. That means that two numbers may be stored very in locality, that is temporal spatial locality. That means if first number is stored in for example in address location 2000, and most probably the next number may be in 2001. So we can access these both locations with a single fetch. Pain decreases because of locality of reference. Actually, there will be two locality, that is spatial locality and temporal locality. Spatial locality means when it is discussed just now, that is whenever we access the location 2000, then there will be high probability to access the very next location in the very next instruction. And temporal locality means whenever we refer a page and in the very next instruction, it is possible. There is a possibility to refer the same page again. That is a temporal record. Hardware support needed for demand paging. Page table with valid or invalid bit, secondary memory, swap device with swap space, instruction restart. These are the basic things to do for demand paging. Okay, then performance of demand paging. Stages in demand paging in worst case. Trap to the operating system. These are the steps. Okay, first, if there is a page fault occurs, then trap to the operating system. Save the user registers and process state. Determine that the interrupt was a page fault. Okay, trap is an interrupt. We already know about that. Then check that the page reference was legal and determine the location of the page on the disk. That is, it will then check whether the request for that particular page is valid or invalid. That is legal or illegal. If it is legal, then we will proceed. Otherwise, we will just abort. Then determine the location of the page on the disk. Then if it is a legal reference, we need to identify, the operating system need to identify the corresponding page in the secondary or backing store. Issue a read from the disk to a free frame. Then we need to identify a free frame in the primary memory and issue a read. Wait in a queue for this device until the read request is serviced. Now it is a peripheral access process. So we need to wait, or the process needs to wait. Wait for the device seek and or latency time. Begin the transfer of the page to a free frame. After successful reading, we need to copy that free frame page to the free frame. While waiting, allocate the CPU to some other process, because we already know we are using some multi-programming environment, so we need to switch. We will never allow the CPU to sit idle. Then receive an interrupt from the disk IO subsystem after completion of that particular read which we initialized. Then save the registers and process states for the other user. Determine that the interrupt was from the disk. Correct the page table and other tables to show page is now in memory. Wait for the CPU to be allocated to this process again. Correct the page table and other tables. We already discussed about this, because whenever the new page is uploaded into the free frame in the physical memory, we need to do entry in the page table. So we need to update that corresponding page table. Okay, then wait for the CPU to be allocated to this process again, because we are already in the waiting queue and we completed the IO process. We are now in the ready queue to execute, but when we need to get the CPU, because the CPU is already allocated for some other process. Restore the user registers, process states and a new page table, and then resume the interrupt instruction. After getting the CPU, it will start its execution. Okay, then performance of the demand page. 3 major activities: service the interrupt, read the page, restart the process. We can see that careful coding means just several hundred instructions needed to service the interrupt. We already know that we have certain interrupt service routines to process this type of interrupts. Then read the page. It may some lots of time, because it is a secondary accessing process. It is time consuming. Then restart the process, again just a small amount of time. Page default rate is 0 less than or equal to p less than or equal to 1. If p equal to 0, there is no page faults. If p equal to 1, every reference is a fault. Then the effective access time, we can calculate the effective access time. EAT is equal to 1 minus p into memory access plus p into page fault overhead plus swap page out plus swap page in. So this is the effective access time for a single page fault. Okay, these are the basic things about this demand paging. Okay, thank you for patient listening. Bye.